India's first rocket was taken to the launch site on a bullock cart. It was launched from Tumba in 1963 by the Indian National Committee for Space Research, or INCOSPAR, established by Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and scientist Vikram Sarabhai a year ago. The Tumba Equatorial Rocket Launch Station was later named the Vikram Sarabhai Space Centre. The Indian Space Research Organisation came into existence in 1969 with the renaming of INCOSPAR by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. India's first satellite Aryabhat was launched in 1975 by the Russian Cosmos 3M rocket from their Kapustin Yar launch base. In the years that followed, ISRO started developing its own launch vehicles. After initial setbacks, an indigenous satellite vehicle was launched from the Sriharikota range in Andhra Pradesh in 1980 under the supervision of Satish Dhawan and APJ Abdul Kalam. Over the next few decades, ISRO developed polar satellite launch vehicles and then the GSLV, or the Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle. The GSLV used cryogenic engines developed indigenously, a major achievement as the technology was denied to India by the US. Over the same period, ISRO also launched the INSAT series of satellites that revolutionized broadcasting, telecommunication and weather forecast. The stage by then was set for bigger things. In 2003, Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, in his Independence Day speech, announced a lunar mission.
विज्ञान के क्षेत्र में भारत एक ऊंची उड़ान लेने के लिए तैयार है। मुझे ये बताने में बड़ी खुशी हो रही है कि भारत चंद्रमा पर अपना अंतरिक्ष यान भेजेगा। इसका नाम होगा चंद्रयान प्रथम।
In October 2008, Chandrayaan-1 took off from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. The lunar project discovered a large number of water molecules on Moon. In 2013, Mangalyaan, the Mars orbiter mission, took off and entered the planet's orbit a year later.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of LPM-3 rocket carrying
Chandrayaan-3 heralds a new dawn. India has become the first country to touch down on the south pole of Moon.
जी हाँ, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि हम
From manned space missions to solar probe missions, ISRO has big projects in the pipeline. India is rising as a space power, and this golden journey was possible for the scientist heroes who led India's rise as a space superpower in past 7 decades, from Sarabhai to Somnath. Vikram Sarabhai is a well-known name when it comes to Indian space missions. He was an Indian physicist and astronomer who initiated space research and helped develop nuclear power in India. Sarabhai established the Indian National Committee for Space Research in 1962, which was later renamed the Indian Space Research Organisation, or ISRO. He was also appointed as the chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission of India in 1966.
I think the passion was to actually be part of building a new India that took its part in the universality of countries, and that could say, we did it, we stood on our own feet, and we have the vision to be able to say, we won't take one step at a time like the tortoise. We will leapfrog into the future. And I think that was his passion. I think that was Homi's passion as well.
Till his last breath, he was busy developing India's space and nuclear power. On the day of his death, Vikram Sarabhai was to review the SLV design. He was in Thiruvananthapuram and was scheduled to go to Mumbai that night. He spoke to APJ Abdul Kalam on the telephone. Within an hour of the conversation, on 30th December 1971, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai died at the age of 52 due to cardiac arrest.
उनके जो सपने थे स्पेस में, इसरो में, तो वो जो फुलफिल होते हैं तब इट इज ऑब्वियसली वेरी नाइस. उनके लिए जो साइंस थे, जो वो साइंस इसरो को जो डेवलप कर रहे थे, वो साइंस में तो एक्सेलेंट था ही, लेकिन वो जो देश के विकास में कैसे एक पार्ट कर सके, वो उनका एक ध्येय था. और इसलिए जो इसरो का डेवलपमेंट है वो कोई अनुकरण नहीं कर रहा है कि भी अमेरिका ने ये किया, रशिया ने ये किया, तो हमको ऐसा ही करना है. हम अपने देश के लिए क्या चीज जरूर है, कब प्रायोरिटी क्या आती है.
The Tumba Equatorial Rocket Launch Station, which launched India's first rocket, was also later named the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, as a tribute to Sarabhai's dedication in the advancement of scientific research in India. As a matter of respect to Vikram Sarabhai, the Indian Space Research Organization named both Chandrayaan-2 and 3's lander as Vikram. Mambilik Kadathil Govind Kumar Menon, commonly known as MGK Menon, was a physicist and policymaker who inherited the mantle of ISRO after the sudden demise of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. He was the prodigy mentored by another pioneer Indian scientist, Homi J. Bhabha. MGK Menon was India's man who undertook experiments with cosmic rays to explore the properties of fundamental particles. He was actively involved in setting up balloon flight experiments as well as deep underground experiments with cosmic ray neutrinos. The asteroid 7564 Goku Menon was named in his honor in late 2008. Professor Satish Dhawan was a mathematician and aerospace engineer and a pioneer for Indian space research. Former Indian President Abdul Kalam was mentored first by Dr. Sarabhai and then by Professor Satish Dhawan. He was one of the most eminent researchers in the field of turbulence and boundary layers, leading the successful and indigenous development of the Indian space program. His leadership consolidated the confidence of ISRO. India was poor and it was a daring ambition for the country to dream of space exploration. Professor Dhawan paved the way. Failure of a space mission or a satellite launch was common. India struggled as it had to develop its own techniques. Developed nations like the USA or USSR did not share the technology. So when a mission failed, Professor Dhawan took the blame, and when it succeeded, the credit went to the team.
1979, August 17th, we were ready for launch of a satellite launch vehicle with 44 subsystem and thousands of components. Exactly at T-8 minutes, computer took over. And then at T-4 minutes, computer put a hold. It says, don't launch. I discussed with my experts. I believed in them. I agreed with them. I am responsible for it. I immediately put the rocket in the manual mode. So rocket took off, 100 seconds, beautiful launch, and the rocket first stage did its job. It's a 4-stage rocket system. Then the second stage took off. Within a minute, within a second, we got into spin. That means it should be steady. It's a controlled rocket system by a guidance system. But it was going to the spin. I knew I lost the rocket system. Within few seconds, instead of putting the satellite in the orbit, the whole system went to Bay of Bengal. So it was a failure. Professor Satish Dhawan said, yes, it's a failure. First time we have launched, we have gained a lot of system, and definitely we will succeed. I will give all the support my technologies. I have failed the missions. With me, 5,000 people have worked. But Chairman, Indian Space Research Organization, he took the responsibility of the failure. He completely switched my failure to his failure.
India honored this leader by naming the Satellite Launch Center at Sriharikota as Satish Dhawan Space Center. The successful Chandrayaan-3 was launched from here. Professor Udupi Ramachandra Rao is known as the satellite man of India. He pioneered the launch of India's very first satellite, Aryabhat, in 1975. He was also the first Indian inducted into the Satellite Hall of Fame in 2013 by the Society of Satellite Professionals International. Professor Rao started his career as a cosmic ray scientist and worked under Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. He was the first to establish the continuous nature of the solar wind and its effect on geomagnetism using Mariner 2 observations. Rao's experiments on a number of Pioneer and Explorer spacecraft led to a complete understanding of the solar cosmic ray phenomena and the electromagnetic state of the interplanetary space. With him as the chairman, after illustrious Professor Satish Dhawan, ISRO soared to new heights and built its capabilities as the economic satellite launch center. Dr. Krishnaswamy Kasturirangan was the chairman of ISRO for 9 years between 1994 and 2003. Under his leadership, ISRO achieved several major milestones, like the successful launching and operationalization of India's prestigious launch vehicles, the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle and the Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, or the GSLV. Studies on the advanced version of GSLV MK3 were also completed, including defining its full configuration while he was the chairman. The dream of founding father of ISRO became real.
Vikram Sarabhai telling people after a few years, okay, India has to develop a capability to launch satellites. Why? Because using the satellites, India can leapfrog in terms of development in the field of education, communication, and telemedicine, etc., etc. In other words, you don't have to build the ground infrastructure which other nations built. And then when the satellite came, they had to change everything. Whereas we have almost a virgin land where we can straight away go to the higher technology. So he sold the idea of satellite development and satellite launching for the purpose of national development.
Dr. Kasturirangan also oversaw the development and launching of the remote sensing satellites IRS-1C and IRS-1D, realization of new generation INSAT communication satellites, besides ocean observation satellites ISR-P3 and P4. He also led the initiative for India to enter the planetary exploration era by extensive studies leading to the definition of Chandrayaan-1. These efforts have put India as a preeminent space-faring nation among the handful of 6 countries that have major space programs. G. Madhavan Nair is a leading technologist in the field of rocket systems and made significant contributions to the development of multi-stage satellite launch vehicles. Before assuming the role of ISRO Chairman, he was the project director for the development of Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, or the PSLV, which has since become the workhorse for launching mainly Indian remote sensing satellites. As the ISRO Chairman, not only did he lead his team to launch various PSLV, GSLV, INSATs, but also the successful launch of India's maiden lunar voyage, Chandrayaan-1.
In the days to come, we will have better and better instruments and probing of the Mars. So such areas of planetary exploration has to be the country's proud projects, and we have to pursue it at any cost if we want to be in par with others in space technology.
Dr. Madhavan's main focus has always been to achieve self-reliance in the high technology areas, and he paved the way for his stupendous success of India in space technology. Space scientist Dr. K Radhakrishnan became the chairman of ISRO right after the successful launch of Chandrayaan-1 in 2009. The country was becoming ambitious. Dr. Radhakrishnan needed to build the capability of ISRO to match the country's aspirations for a manned mission.
Most important element of a human spaceflight program is reliability and safety. You will need a reliable launch vehicle for sending a human being. It's called man-rated vehicle. And when you talk about a man-rated vehicle, the number is reliability has to be 0.99. That means you can tolerate one failure in 100.
He was the man who prepared the ground for Gaganyaan, the manned mission of ISRO that hopefully will take off in 2024. Dr. Radhakrishnan in his time led ISRO to achieve 37 space missions, including several historic feats. Mangalyaan, the Mars orbiter mission, was successfully launched during his tenure. He also spearheaded the project of flying the Indian cryogenic engine on GSLV, the first experimental flight of the GSLV MK3. Alluru K Kiran Kumar became the ISRO chairman after working on both Chandrayaan-1 and Mangalyaan projects. AK Kiran Kumar is the man who designed and developed the electro-optical image sensors used in India's first remote sensing satellite, Bhaskar series. He was also the man who led his team to develop the terrain mapping camera and hyperspectral imager payloads of Chandrayaan-1 project. He is the rocket man of India. Dr. Sivan became the 9th chairman of ISRO in 2018. Within a year, Chandrayaan-2 was launched.
Actually, it is the beginning of a historical journey of India towards moon and to land at a place near South Pole to carry out scientific experiments to explore unexplored. In fact, after that a serious technical snag we had and we fixed that technical snag, now ISRO bounced back with flying colors.
On board GSLV MK3, Chandrayaan-2 beamed back a perfect report card. The mission was expected to take 48 days in total to land its rover Pragyan on South Pole of the Moon, roughly on 14 September 2019. But then on 10th September, days before the final landing on Moon, ISRO announced that it had lost contact with lander Vikram. ISRO scientists were disappointed. It was an emotional moment. Chandrayaan-2 propulsion module still orbits Moon and keeps sending back valuable information. It recently spotted Vikram lander and Pragyan rover of Chandrayaan-3 at work. Aerospace engineer Sridhar Panikar Somnath became the 10th chairman of ISRO in January 2022. Like his illustrious predecessors, he has made history with the successful landing of Chandrayaan-3 on the south pole of the moon. He is the man who led India to become the first country to land on the lunar south pole.
Department of Space and Chairman ISRO, Shri S. Somnath.
All of you know it is not an easy task at all. It's a work of last so many years. Maybe for Chandrayaan-3 it's a work of last 4 years, but for Chandrayaan-2 that was a work of many years back. And the learning that we got from Chandrayaan-2 of our unsuccessful attempt to soft land has really helped us in perfecting the methodology and also to have large number of experiments, tests to prove the process of landing. And it has paid dividends today. And we had a very soft landing, and it actually achieved most of the nominal conditions for the landing, including the velocity of touchdown. In fact, I didn't get it exactly. Possibly my team will be able to tell them.
India dreams big with him at the helm of affairs, of studying the sun and then going back to Mars, and finally an Indian manned mission to space. These 10 heroes of Indian Space Research Organization have ensured that India is today a leading space explorer with a unique selling point of cost-efficient missions.